I think God has a way of ordering our steps and giving us, allowing us to have head-on collision with timing and purpose. For most of us, we are first generation graduates, first generation homeowners, first generation certain things, and we are coming out of a season of survival. So here we are. We're learning how to thrive, scale. We learn how to see what's next. We're learning how to realize it wasn't luck. Without sharing anybody, they realize that it's overcoming imposter syndrome. We literally. It's a book that I read by Amy Cuddy. It's a Harvard business book. It was a book entitled Presence, Your Inner Self Showing Up. And it had a chapter about imposter syndrome in it. That's the first time I ever encountered it. And sometimes when everyone else is believing you are the greatest thing since sweet tea, you kind of overcoming this, what the Bible is called a grasshopper mentality. That's a real reality. The grasshopper mentality comes from the Bible. For children of Israel, the Lord is promising them the promised land and made all of these concessions for them to get to the promised land. And but yet the giants seem so big. You're coming into a room so big. So they went into the room and saw that the caterpillars or the pomegranates, everything was so big that they felt like they were not worthy of it, or they couldn't overtake the enemy, or they could not deserve it. So they had a grasshopper mentality. So before he physically had to transform them, he had to do something in their hearts and their minds to prepare them for what's coming. Because oftentimes we are in these places of scaling, or these places that we pray for physically, but mentally there is this little boy, little girl showing up. It's like, I ain't ready for this. They're gonna find out who I am. They're gonna realize, and it's like, no. The grace of God is with you. It sustains you, but it's definitely something that you have to trust. For my case, is trusting God in realizing the faithfulness that has happened privately that has prepared me for this moment to be here. To be here. I mean, it happens all the time. Oftentimes, I felt this way at some of the greatest moments of my life. I felt this way at my undergrad graduation. I felt this way at my master's graduation. I felt my way at my doctor's graduation. I felt this way at book signings. I mean, some of the greatest moments of my life, I've felt this grasshopper mentality. Book signing. Is anybody going to show up? And people here, and then people show up from the time that it opened, from the time that it closed. Like, wow, people really do support. They really do want to support the ministry. They really want to learn from. They really are blessed by my ministry, my doctorate ministry. Is somebody gonna come up here and tell me that I didn't graduate? I'm here. I'm all roped up. They're gonna say the last minute, is this really gonna happen? It's the craziest thing that one goes through. When I'm in my master's program about to graduate, like, are they gonna really approve my paper? Is this really going forward? Here I am at the end, then won various awards, looked at as one of the leaders on campus, leaders of my class, but yet internally, I can't even enjoy the fullness of the day because I feel like something's gonna happen. And then undergrad, they allowed me to walk out of the school, but mind you, when I was in high school, I barely graduated high school. So 11th grade, I almost failed. The only reason why I passed is because they lowered the grade to 60. And by them lowering the grade to 60, it allowed me to pass the 11th grade. I had to go to summer school because I failed 2 classes. I would have been 3. And then I was so broken during that summer school period that the 12th grade year, I made the honor roll because I said to myself, if I do this for 6 months, I ain't ever have to go to school again. So that was my mindset. You know, I was just happy to get out of school based on my father dying at 13, based on watching my mother struggle. And so I was just kind of sick of struggling and frustrated with all of that. And I wanted to work right after school. So by me working after school, I ended up working at the Hyatt Regency, which changed my life. I knew poor, I knew black folk, but when I got to the Hyatt, I saw the world. I was exposed. I wanted more. And that was almost like a backdoor way of God showing me that how I wanted more, then education had a whole different meaning for me. And when the opportunity came, you know, I didn't know how to type. It took me all night to type a paper. So finally, I wasn't like the other students. I had to work my way, go to the writing center, humble myself, and then I start typing that one paper. And then my 1-page paper went to a 5-page paper. Then that 5-page paper went to a 15-page paper. And those papers I used to get C's on, but I was just happy to get the paper done. So it didn't even matter that I got a C. So, but I went to the writing center because I not only could I write the paper, but then I was happy that I was able to go from a C, and I wanted to begin to get a B's and A's. So I went to the writing center. I had to humble myself as a 23-year-old black male, allowing an 18-year-old Caucasian girl to come and help me, sometimes try and diagnose me, saying I had ADHD or I had certain things going on. And it was like, I just don't know how to do it. So she, that would happen. Then the C's begin to be B's and the B's begin to be A's. And I looked up, y'all, I was graduating with my Bachelor's of Arts in Communication, and I was leading my class out. But on that day, I'm like, is this really happening? So sometimes these great moments that I had, it's almost like a delayed reaction because I didn't had the moment. Like, did you enjoy it? Or the whole time in your mind, you're thinking, no, this is a dream. No, this ain't gonna happen. So it kept going on and on and on. So I went to Chicago. So master's level. It's all about writing papers, all about doing this. So certain language I didn't have, a certain vocabulary I may not have had. I used to always in my mind, like, I don't know how to say those words, or I don't know what those words mean, or certain things of that nature, or, they're going to find me out. And God kept reminding me, yo, you good enough. Your unique self, the way you come about these concepts and principles, the way I've revealed myself to you, it's enough. You do not have to be intimidated or feel like you have to fit into this particular bubble. You trust my way, you work your creativity, you worked it out. And I end up writing certain papers, doing certain things, end up getting my Master's of Divinity. And again, feeling like this pop. Then I go to my doctorate ministry program. I'm in this class amongst giants. I'm in the worst season of my life, which really is right where chapter 5 is in the book. It all begins with the pen. It's a chapter of hardship to hope. At this particular time, God has indeed blessed me with education, blessed me with a home. But, I'm going through a season of my life where the church that I was supposed to work for, they couldn't pay me. So I couldn't even make the first much mortgage payment on a 4,000 square foot home. Couldn't make the first mortgage payment. The church that I thought I was having, it was a complete, let me say it this way. Recession had hit. So this was back in 07, 08. So the housing crisis happened. So people were losing their jobs. The economy was collapsing. So of course it's going to impact the church. So the church couldn't pay me. And of course that caused certain things between my pastor and myself. And it just was a frustrating time. Me and Michelle couldn't have a baby after having a miscarriage in 07, the first time that we get pregnant. And then here it is, 2000 and 9 and 10 and still can't have. Life seems like it's just like, I got to be a substitute teacher where I'm driving the van for basketball, volleyball, just to make ends meet, just to survive. And I remember God saying, hey, the church might not be there to pay you, but I will. Now, I didn't know how that was going to look. I didn't know it was going to look like after I'm preaching on Sunday, I'm standing in the Hope line on Monday and Tuesday, seeing people that I just preached to, and here I am, trying to figure out how to modify this mortgage. So this process went on for a minute, just brokenness. But through all of that, y'all, I end up applying for a doctor of ministry program. And to be honest with you, the only reason I applied for the doctor of ministry program to make my resume look better so that I can get called to a church. Being called to a church in the Baptist circles, they got to call you. That means you're like a candidate. It's like a candidating process, and then they vote you in. But your resume looks better when you have certain things on it. So I got into this doctor of ministry program, and it literally was the thing that transformed my life. It's what I needed. But I was in a classroom with the president of Hampton's Ministers Conference. That's like equivalent to being the president of a bike in the church world. He was a major player. And these three individuals who had major roles in churches, then you have me, who's struggling at the church, who's going through all of this stuff. I'm in this class with these people for 3.5 years. We're going to Five Guys, eating together, talking about their ministry experience. And I'm like, God, you got me. Why you got me in this table with them? Nothing about my work. They all know each other. I'm the outsider. I already feel this way coming in, and yet here I go again. And God showed me, you at the table, son. He had to keep reminding me about. And I remember me trying to go off and share my victimization story to the point where you could tell nobody wanted to hear it because all they could see was me. The fact is, you had the resume and requirements to get here, so you're here for a reason. When we see you, we don't see that. You keep trying to take us there. So we not, they didn't even want to deal with that. They just was trying to push us to where we were going. And sure enough, the Lord exposed me, gave me that. But that grasshopper mentality was very, very much present in my life, very much. So here I am, got admission into the program, accepted, realized I was going, but I had the biggest breaking moment of my life. August 24th, 2010, I remember it. I'm driving, it's my grandmother's birthday. My grandmother's now 86 years old. Then I believe that was some 12 years ago. I remember driving on her street in Baltimore County in Oak Avenue and Liberty Road. And a song by Israel New Breed came on, Nothing Else Matters. Just to sit at your feet, hear your voice clearly speak, something broke in me. It broke in me so bad. I had to pull to the side of the road. In tears, mucus, snot began to pour out of me to the point where the shirt that I had on, I had used it as toilet tissue or a napkin or Kleenex, and it had no more room. It was so saturated with all the tears of disappointment, all the moments of feeling like I wasn't good enough. And I was at this moment and I felt broken to the point where I had to call my brother, Pastor Michael Scott, who was godfather of my children, I'm godfather of his. He was working for Woodlawn Police District. While he was working, he met me. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but he met me right where I was. And I said, man, I'm a failure. I can't have a baby. You know, church is not working out for me. I don't even know why I'm going into this doctor ministry program. And he just sit there and allowed me to say all of that, get all of that out, because that's how I felt. Here I am on my way to the doctor ministry program. Here I am, had just graduated with a Master of Divinity. Here I am, everybody's hero because I went away to school, came back. Here I am, Michelle and I living in this beautiful home, driving this green Jaguar. Here we are, you know, looking great on the outside, but on the inside, I'm feeling like a complete failure. In that moment of intersection, on my way to accept this doctor ministry program, I just got to, it was almost like you're finally getting to this admission place. You got accepted and you beating yourself up so bad. But all I could think about is the pain of the process, the pain of what didn't happen, the pain of what expectation wasn't met, and not realizing a new beginning was being birthed at that moment. But all of that had to break. It had to break before I could ever go into the process. Now, mind you, that was August 24th. The process of me going to the doctoral place was September the 10th. So before we even get there were some things that just need to break. And I'm so glad the Lord allowed me to have that moment. Oh gosh, I can feel that moment right now. I almost want to pause and cry because the moment was so real. It was so vivid to be able to have that process of those years from undergrad, from master's, from father's death, from mama not having enough, from all the things that people said about me, negativity, not being included, feeling like you were overlooked, but yet all along God's hand, his love was right there. My steps was ordered, and it just happened to be the right time for me. So got myself together. Pastor Mike just loved me enough to listen to me and then spoke into my life. And that moment had us recover. We had to shake it off and find a way to let him get back to work and get myself together. Never made it to my grandmother's house. I think I just drove home feeling lighter. That moment, whatever heavy burden that I had on me, it was able to be released at that moment. I had to dial a friend. It was that bad. I needed some help to get through that moment. I know people look at me now, Bishop Jermaine, author of books, pastor of the Great Word of Life Church, but this was process. You know, that's why when you're broken like this, you can be patient with people. You can listen to them. You can tell them. You can help them not quit. You know, it's a lot that goes into it. And some things people ain't necessarily did me right, but it ain't about that. You know, that was all necessary. That's part of the journey. But I got into the doctoral ministry program and the journey began. And who knew that the first year of a doctoral program was going to really be about spiritual formation? It wasn't about writing books. It wasn't about a process. It wasn't about a dissertation. It was about seeing yourself. That first year of the dossier program allowed me to see myself. It was a moment of self-reflection, self-identification. I literally had to talk out and write out broken moments of my life. I had to write out stuff that I deemed tribulation, that was really just a trial or a test. But when we use tribulation, we talk, tribulation has such a powerful word. It has such a ramification based on the book of Revelation, and the great tribulation is coming. And at that moment, there are certain things that feel like tribulation when we're going through it. But when you live through it, can I tell you, it's just a trial, it's just a test. It's almost like a quiz, a test, an exam. But that tribulation, it's a quiz now, but it felt like a tribulation at the moment. But as you grow and evolve, you'll realize those moments of tribulation are the vehicles that God uses for elevation to get us on the other side. So for me to be purged out in that first year, it's a lot of things I didn't like, but it was so necessary for me to be able to share those moments, to write them out, to face those moments head on. If I was going to go forward and scale my life and overcome this syndrome of never feeling good enough, God had me in a room for 3 years, for 2 weeks, with some of the major pastors of the world. Jermaine, if you're going to go where it is that I'm calling you to be, you have to be able to navigate, to eat with, to sit with. They talking about 2% and being able to take their families on vacation here. Here I am just trying to figure it out. Can't pay the mortgage. Barely only there because I got a partial scholarship. But it was so necessary that as God was building me up to show me, there are times God will have you in a place of showing you what your next looks like. But you have to trust Him enough. The Bible, pistuos, to trust and rely upon God. You have to let God be God. And at times letting God be God, you got to decrease so He can increase. So increase in your mind as a sense of God is on the throne, and you may feel like you're very insignificant, feeling very low, feeling like I don't have no control of that situation. And that makes you vulnerable. That makes you feel like I'm naked. They're going to find me out. All along, God is building you up day by day, moment by moment. They stay in fancy hotels. I'm staying on campus at the missionary place where I'm paying $20 a night, and I'm grateful. And who knew? 3,000 member church. Here I am, just started a Bible study in my church, trying to figure it out in the midst of a broken season. But all of us, at some point, when God, at the right time, God will allow you to get to that purpose. But that was my process of getting there, letting God be God, letting Him exalt me in the right time. But the broken process, that feeling of being vulnerable, that feeling of being naked, that feeling of feeling insufficient, can I tell you, is very much real. Now, we all got different paths, but to be able to yield to whatever process that God allows you to yield to, it is so necessary and evident as you're going forward. God will raise up certain angels. He will raise up certain people in certain seasons of your life, but you got to trust it. You got to trust it. This is your moment to be able to trust it. If you're going to get out of it, it's not about how hard you work. It's not about how much you know. It's not about how bad you want it. You got to be able to yield to the process. There's an old song that says, I surrender all. That surrendering looks different it looks like it's a myriad of formats that it looks different in all of our lives. But it's so necessary when you feel like you've given your best and you feel like you should have this at this particular time, or you're this age and this should happen. When you surrender to God, you got to yield to Him. The journey is real. This journey of overcoming self, overcoming this grasshopper syndrome, being able to identify it, this journey of overcoming the little boy or the little girl that lives within us, the overcoming of imposter syndrome, to be able to realize that these things are very apparent in our lives. And as God is using all of these things to allow us to find a sense of leverage, to find a sense of elevation, to find a sense of purpose, these moments or this podcast or this interaction has meant to be an intersection for us. And number one, to let you know that you're not alone, that you're not going crazy, that these things are really real. But you, just like me, we can overcome it as we can move out of the place of survival to a place of thriving. Number one, we're identifying it. We're identifying that this is my feeling, this is how I felt. But the ability to navigate through this world in which we live in, with this political climate, with all that's going on, with all the uncertainties that are around us, that you and I are enough. And your stories, your processes that have led you to this point is just happen to be a part of the story.